What's up, guys? This is Rey-Jay back with another video. I want to break down something very, very important about the markets. We have some huge news that's coming out involving Donald Trump's tariffs that could change, and this could cause the market to launch upwards. I'm going to break down why I'm seeing inverse head and shoulders everywhere and why the market has a lot of potential right now to see a big bounce. Just know that I'm not a financial planner. Take nothing I'm saying as financial advice. And then please check out my Moomoo link. Deposit $100 and you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. Deposits $2,000 and you're guaranteed 30. So what's happening so far? Notice this guy's SPY has an inverse head and shoulders. Okay, the QQQ inverse head and shoulders. We're seeing them everywhere. ES technically it does have one, but it's not looking as strong. NQ has an inverse head and shoulders, as you guys can see. Looking at Tesla, there's an inverse head and shoulders right here. Right, the list goes on. Looking at Amazon, there's an inverse head and shoulders. Looking at Meta, inverse head and shoulders. Microsoft inverse head and shoulders. So we're seeing this setup everywhere. And this is pretty wild because this typically suggests upside could be coming. Not a guarantee, but with all of them forming, this does increase the odds of this potentially panning out. Now, why is this forming? What's going on? I just want to say that there's huge news coming out. We have the Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick saying that President Donald Trump is set to announce changes to the tariffs on Canada and Mexico this afternoon as he considers rolling back the rates on sectors such as autos. And then we're seeing a lot of news coming out that the Trump administration is signaling that the tariffs against Canada and Mexico may soon have exemptions. That is absolutely massive news because the market dumped really, really hard amidst all this fear that, oh, Donald Trump was going to be raising tariffs. It caused this big, big, big panic, this big sell-off in the markets. And instead of getting it this time around, now we're hearing some news that, the tariffs may be alleviated to some degree. They may be changed at different rates. So that's going to have likely an opposite effect because the market would likely, like that. So that's very, very important. It's very important for us to go over that and remember. So please keep that in mind. So as far as this market is going to be going, this may cause a lot of volatility. Now, when it comes to our data that came out, I just want to say that our services sector was okay in terms of PMI, right? This was okay. Employment was still showing some strength. However, the services prices was at 62.6 versus the 60.6 expectation. So the data was not good. In all honesty, it was not very good because it was inflationary, at least technically speaking. It was inflationary, right? This is showing signs that the prices for the services sector did go up. Despite that, we did see SPY pump, came down a little bit. Now it's holding up. So the market is still green despite some not so good data. And it could be because of this news right here that Trump is about to make this big announcement to change his tariffs. Now, we don't have any confirmation that there's going to be a specific time it's going to happen. All I know is that Lutnick, so this guy right here is the Commerce Secretary. Lutnick is saying that it's going to be coming very soon, a new deal involving the tariffs. So Donald Trump is set to announce a lot of changes very soon. I don't know when. They're saying like maybe in the afternoon. So that's huge news. That could be part of why the market is holding up so far. It's just like it's a little bit more optimistic about this. And then if he makes the announcement, it's going to cause a massive move. So get ready, guys, just to be safe. So looking at the charts is very simple. Okay, looking at SPY, we have this potential left shoulder, a head, and then maybe a right shoulder. But this is under the assumption that SPY holds this low, because if we lose this low, if SPY ends up dumping, we lose 572 and we end up failing to hold this low right here, right? If this low fails us, we're going to invalidate this and we could still remain bearish. So there's a possibility that's going to happen if we end up losing this low. If we hold the low like we are right now, there's a strong possibility that this could try to rebound. So we'll see how it ends up going. I also want to mention that SPY did technically attempt to form a divergence. So we'll see if this ends up leading to a big bounce or not. So far, I think we're doing a good job, especially looking at the 30-minute time frame it holding up as the market is green. And this inverse head and shoulders could pan out. So we'll see if that ends up being the case. Now, on the QQQ, notice we have a very similar setup. It's actually a lot more flat. This is like a flat inverse head and shoulders on the triple Q. This is being held up thanks to like Nvda and many other tech stocks that have similar setups. Despite the weakness in Apple, it's still doing a good job. So is this about to break out? Are we about to see a big breakout to the upside if Donald Trump announces changes to his tariffs? That could be the factor that causes this. Now, not a guarantee. Okay, there's the possibility that if we do get a rejection, if SPY does if the QQQ, excuse me, does not hold 492, we're going to be looking at this low. If we lose this, we could be dipping again. And, there's no guarantee that this is officially panning out. We have to hold at least 492 for this to play out. I would like to see us hold that 490 to 492 at the very least. I need to see that hold. If we hold that range, then yes, this could pan out. The inverse essentials could survive and we could be looking for a big bounce. If not, it's not going to be a good sign. So we'll see how it goes. For the Russell 2000, very similar setup. There's a left shoulder here. There's a head, and there's a right shoulder that's possibly forming. If this low fails, though, then it's going to invalidate this. So just keep in mind if we end up losing like 203 on the IWM, that's going to turn bearish. So just keep that in mind. But just to be safe, you want to see us essentially break this resistance at 209, then eventually start breaking out like that. There's a chance that that could end up panning out. Notice ES also has this setup. So even futures have the setup. ES is kind of green, a little bit weaker than SPY, but still holding up nicely. We have a potential slanted left shoulder ahead, and maybe a right shoulder here that could be leading to a much larger move up. So we'll see if that ends up being the case or not. So keep that in mind. So we'll see if that ends up panning out. But this is a little risky because for that to pan out, we need to make sure that we don't end up losing around 57.50. As long as we could hold above that, there's a good chance we try to rebound and break past the 5800s for an inverse head and shoulders breakout. Notice that NQ has a similar setup. We have a potential left shoulder, a head, and then maybe a right shoulder right here. I want to see it break 20,600. If that breaks, we're looking for a nice balance, if anything. And if we end up losing this support around 20,200, we're looking for a dip. So I'm favoring this inverse head and shoulders breakout. There's a good chance that's going to be what we end up seeing. Notice that Bitcoin is trying to hold the support where this trend line is. So it's making higher lows so far. So far, this is bullish, actually. This is bullish, higher highs and higher lows. As you guys can see on Bitcoin, it's another good sign the market wants to bounce. Nvda, same setup as the QQQ, almost identical, right? We have a left shoulder, a head, and then a right shoulder. There's a left shoulder, a head, then potentially a right shoulder here. If we end up breaking 120, we're looking for a push for 122 plus. If we end up losing 112, we're looking for that dip. But overall, we do have this potential setup. As long as Nvidia does not lose like 112 to 110, we're going to be fine. Tesla also has this developing. There's a possible left shoulder, a head, then a right shoulder, maybe. I want to see Tesla break 282. If that's the case, we're looking for 293. And if we end up losing 268, if we lose like 268, it's not going to be a good sign. Specifically, I would say 262 is the main level I don't want to see Tesla lose. As long as we hold this 260 zone, we're looking for a rebound back up to the 280. So there's a chance Tesla could get that bounce. Apple dumped quite a bit, but it's trying to bounce. I just want to say that there's weakness and bad news came out, so we'll have to give this some time. For the rest of these, I'm seeing this all over the place. So Coinbase is kind of in a range. All I care about is can we make a higher low. So although this is dipping like this, as long as we can make a higher low compared to this low, this could try to rebound for the 220s. It depends on if we can make a higher low or not. So far, we're attempting to do that. Amazon, same setup, very, very crystal clear. Left shoulder, head, and maybe a right shoulder. They have good news as well. Very similar setup. As long as we don't lose 202, this is looking for a reversal. Meta, same thing, right? Very similar setup. We have a left shoulder, a head, potentially a right shoulder here, which could be leading us to about 661 or so. As long as we don't end up losing like 630, I think we're going to be fine. Microsoft, same setup, left shoulder, head, right shoulder. We could be looking for 394 plus. As long as we don't end up losing like 385, I think we're going to be okay. And then Google, this one is not as good looking, but it's still possible. We have like a left shoulder head and then a right shoulder. It's a little bit sloppy looking, but it's a possibility. Could be looking like this, maybe. So it's possible this does try to bounce as well, but that depends. Notice the VIX also has a head and shoulders. There's a left shoulder here, a head, a right shoulder. If we end up losing support right here at 22, we're looking for a dump on the VIX, a small dip. Could that be because the market's about to bounce? I can't make promises. I'm not saying it's going to happen for sure. But considering that all these tickers like Nvidia, the QQQ, NQ, ES, they all have the same setup, the odds of it playing out are a little bit more probable, especially because Lutnick has been saying this since yesterday, that Trump is about to make some big announcements involving changing his tariffs, rolling back on them to some extent, especially for the auto sector. Can Donald Trump do that? And is that going to cause a bounce? We'll have to wait and see. Anyways, I thank you for listening. Have a good one, guys. I'll be back with another upload in a couple of hours, and peace out.